I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and welcome to the Inner Voice Show, the show that's about you, about your life, and about everything that matters the most in your life, especially your intimate relationship and marriage. In this show, I usually talk to the experts from the psychology world, and today I'm so excited to have Dr. Rhoberta Shaler, who's a psychologist in Canada and in the U.S., and right now is in San Diego, in Encinitas. I'll ask her what the city is actually. And she's an author of 15 books, and the 16th one coming up. And we're going to talk to her about the latest book, which is Kaizen for Couples, Smart Steps to Save, Sustain and Strengthen Your Relationship, and about her 16th book that's coming up. So be with us, and in a couple of seconds we're going to be back with Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. Hello, I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and welcome to Inner Voice Show. On this episode, we're going to talk about relationship, finances, and a whole lot more. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm an author and an international speaker. I have hosted my own television show, Inner Voice, in a satellite program for 16 years. Whether it's premarital counseling or through their marriage, how to deal with children, and if they're going through a divorce, to teach them how to communicate better together. In actuality, I think my job is very important to work with individuals and the couples in order to make the most important relationship of their life healthy, which makes them healthy. On my Inner Voice show, I actually interview some of the prominent psychologists and entertainers in English, and I also speak to some of the psychotherapists who are Iranians and the artists who are Iranians, and I speak in Persian to the Persian population around the world, from Iran or Europe or Japan, Australia, all over the United States and Canada, because obviously I was born in Iran.
Where's Dr. Zeine? Dr. Zeine?
Hello.
You also have been trained in my specific methodology and techniques, correct?
Yes.
Are you willing to talk to her after this show?
Absolutely.
And tell her the step-by-step that she needs to do to deal with what I believe is an addictive personality?
Yes, absolutely. The family goes through a lot. For boys who are becoming girls, the fathers of the family suffer. They will keep being confused. They look at all the childhood pictures that they've took of their son, and now they look at somebody who's standing in front of them and supposed to be their daughter. Coming up, I'm going to be talking to a psychotherapist about awareness integration model. You really want to know what that is, huh? Coming up. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, psychotherapist, and I'm here with Nasreen Bafordari, licensed marriage and family therapist. We're going to talk about awareness integration model, a psychological model that I have originated, and Nasreen Bafordari is one of the first therapists who has actually learned and has been utilizing it with her clients. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. This is an honor.
Some of the major topics that I actually talk to my clients who are couples are first talking about sexuality. Many people don't know how to talk about sex. Concept of communication about it is something that I actually have to teach the couples and how to do. We talk about sexuality. Many people come into their sexuality in a very automatic way. We can go through the whole experience and wham, have a great time, but being with another human being, it actually takes skills. So becoming aware of every area of how we think, how we behave, how we feel, how we communicate with another human being in order to have an amazing sexuality is part of what we also teach in this AI model.
So much of our sexuality.
People don't talk about finances a lot. They don't have a system. They come from two backgrounds of how they actually have created their finances, and I have to help them create a system and have a great communication in how to follow the system. Another main topic is when they actually have children. Now remember, two people, two backgrounds, two cultures, two sets of values are coming in, and now they actually have to bring those together, and that's where they need how to communicate, be flexible, and really negotiate on one way of handling their kids. Duet, sometimes you guys are entering each other's space and singing together, and then solo. How does that experience for you?
The funny thing is,
in-laws, we have to deal with them. They're always there. They're going to be there. We didn't marry them, but they came with a package. So somehow we have to really, really work with them. And if I have to actually add one more topic that I've had to deal with a lot of couples and individuals is addiction. Whether it's an addiction to alcohol or drugs, pornography, cell phone, computers, is one aspect that really, really affects the person's life and in their relationship. With people who are going through recovery from addiction, they've had some sort of a trauma in their childhood. And when we've worked with the awareness integration model with them, clearing the trauma, the choice and the chance for them to relapsing is really minimized. I have been in the field of psychology for about 25 years. I started with seminars in ontology and psychology almost the same time. And I know you were part of the pilot study that we did. And in the result of that pilot study was that people were actually minimizing the depression 76%. They were minimizing anxiety 64%. And their self-esteem was rising about 43%. Now those are astonishing numbers.
You know, I wanted to go through it. I wanted to experience what my clients would experience. So I asked you to work on me as a model for the group that was being trained.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, you can see more on my website and my YouTube channel. And if you want to contact me, I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Bye-bye. Hello everyone, welcome back, and hello, and thank you for joining me.
yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Dr. Shaler, you've called yourself the Relationship Help Doctor.
That's me.
So tell us why you chose that.
Well, basically, that's what I do in the world, you know, is I help people who are having questions or struggles with their relationship. But also, I want to help people understand how to have a better relationship, even if they're not currently having trouble, so that they get set up to be healthy in their relationship. So hence the Relationship Help Doctor.
Now, where is your practice?
My office is in Escondido.
Escondido, that's the word. Escondido, and I was saying every other thing except Escondido.
But I have clients all over.
And that's San Diego County, by the way.
Right. I have clients all over because I work through Skype and Zoom.
Yes.
So I have clients in many countries as well as many states.
And the website for Dr. Shaler is written on the screen, so you can go ahead and go over there. She writes blogs that are on her website. She has videos, she has a YouTube channel, and you can get not only the book that we're going to be talking about today, but also the other 14 books that she has written, and you can get that through her website. So I told everyone that you were having your 16th one coming up, but I'm not going to talk about it today. We're just going to tell you what the name is, because I want her back in January or February to talk about the new one, because we're going to talk about this one, 15th one, the Kaizen for couples, since we have it here. But tell us a little bit about the 16th one.
The 16th one is, I'm really excited about it. It's called The Hijackal Trap, Loving Someone Who Shoves You Away Yet Demands That You Stay.
How many of you have had that experience? So definitely we want to know about it. But hang in there, we're coming back for that one. So now let's go to Kaizen for couples. What does Kaizen mean?
Kaizen is a Japanese term, and it means good change. And what the definition of it is, from the total quality management point of view, is small, positive, incremental change. Okay. And why the book is called that is because people come in and they say, I have this problem, fix it. And it's a big problem. And they didn't get that problem overnight. And they're not going to fix that problem overnight. So we're going to make small, positive, incremental changes. And the book will help with that, because that has everything in it that I do when I'm working with couples privately.
So when we're looking at working with couples, I know that when a couple comes in, in my practice at least, when I'm working with a couple, usually they come in and each one of them is actually sitting in the office already either pissed, upset, fed up, can't handle it anymore. And most of them come in hoping that what I would do is to take their side over the other one and hopefully fix the other one so that they could be happy. And usually when they walk out, they probably have heard whatever they wanted to hear, and the pieces that I said that it matched what they wanted to hear, they're like, yes, see, the doctor says that too. And the pieces that didn't match, they're like, well, she just didn't catch it this time, but I'm sure she'll catch it the next time.
I'll make sure she catches it next time.
So what is your experience?
Well, I say it right in the book. I said when people come in to see me the first time, I can read the bubbles over their head,
Yeah.
and both bubbles say everything would be fine if you just fix the other one.
Right.
So, yes, I mean, we don't like to own the fact that maybe we could do better. We want the other person fixed because of projection, because of all kinds of things that are happening psychologically. And so we have to agree that there are three people in the room, three entities in the room. There's the two people who comprise the couple, but then there is the third entity, which is the relationship. And that requires a lot of skill. That's why I no longer practice as a psychologist. Mm-hmm. I practice as a relationship consultant and educator, because we have to be educated to have good relationships.
Yes, we certainly do.
It's not something we wake up knowing or are born knowing. We've only seen the relationships we've seen. Have we seen really good ones that are absolutely a commitment and a joy and supportive and all the wonderful things that a relationship needs to be? And if we haven't seen that, then we need to get a new model. And if we have seen some of that, we still have not seen our partner's world. You know, I was doing a seminar once and I said, you know, everybody who comes from a family where when you had a conflict, you yelled and screamed and then made up afterwards, go to that wall. And everybody who came from a home where you never said what was going on for you, go to that wall. And if you're somewhere in between, string out. There were 300 people in the room, big bunches on either wall, small number in the middle. And so I said, now what happens if you marry somebody from the other wall? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, the entire way of managing conflict, communicating, very, very different. So all that you learned in your family doesn't do you any good when you get to the relationship with this person who processes differently. So it's an education process of learning yourself and learning the other person, and then creating a relationship that's unique to the two of you, that works.
Right. And most people are not trained to go into a intimate relationship and a marriage with someone else. Most people actually just take what they got from their parents and state that I'm going to take everything I liked about my mom and dad and whatever that they did together, and I want that. And obviously, I don't want the ones I don't want. And it kind of gets limited into that concept. But this concept of I'm also marrying someone who had their own mom and dad and everything, and they have their own preferences of, you know, likes and dislikes. Mm-hmm. And people walk in to a relationship not necessarily being interested to know and to learn about the other family's culture and looking at how the two can get combined. Most people, when they get married, they want to know their mate and how it's they're compatible with us. And that's what I'm also hearing from you. It's like the knowledge, the knowing, and identifying how we are different. Obviously, we get together because we're compatible, but also how we are different. For a while, yeah. Because the conflicts usually arise out of the things that we're not compatible with, and if we're not interested to know, we're not curious to find out how to bring those together and how the other person is used to, then we can add to the conflict versus solving it.
Yes, and that's exactly what happens. And what I call that in Kaizen for couples is being otherwise. Mm. You have to be wise about the other person as well as yourself.
I like that word, otherwise.
And if you just go into the relationship saying, I want what I want, and I want this beautiful picture, and it's the picture I have in my mind, you don't come together and create something new, which is the whole exercise here of coming into relationship. Yes. Is not to have the relationship your parents had or the relationship your partner's parents had, but to have a relationship that is the best for you two. Mm-hmm. And you have to learn that. You have to learn yourself, you have to learn each other, and then you have to learn what works for the two of you. And we don't get a lot of support for that in the world. We have to do that in a purposeful way, I think, if we really want to have a relationship where we feel we can be vulnerable and safe.
Well, I agree that we don't get support for that. I think part of it is that when people are trying to get married, the way that we get support from our friends and family members are more self-serving, because when I'm looking at who am I going to choose, it's a lot more about how's it going to serve me and my goals before I got to the marriage, such as if I wanted the rich husband, or I wanted the good looking, and I wanted this, and I wanted the sexy wife, and I wanted that. So it's more like I have an idea about who I want to marry, and then I get support from my friends and family about how to assess for that. And then I go into a relationship with all of that piece. And so we don't get support for that. And then when we get into our first fight, obviously our families and friends are all on our side and are still looking at, is this person going to serve what I originally wanted or not? And they might not necessarily have all the skills to be able to support us into going forward with learning how to be with each other.
And maybe all those people that you go to who are on your side are not the best people to be going to. I think you really have to take a look at that, because we go to find allies, right? We go and tell our family or our friends our story, and we want them to say, oh, yes, you're right, there, you know, he or she is just so wrong, and you're so right. And when I work with couples, I have them make a commitment and an agreement that they will not talk to anybody except each other and me for the entire duration of our working together, so that we stop this looking for allies business. Because when you do that, you find the allies, but then when your partner comes in and you're having a good day with your partner and he comes in to be with your supposed allies, they're already prejudiced against your partner. Yes. And now they say, well, I have this picture, I'm on the inside, I know what you're really like because I heard all about it. And that person doesn't have a fair chance at all. And that's where it really falls apart, because now we've got polarization or alienation that didn't need to occur. But it's because I was running saying, tell me I'm right, give me support, rather than having a balanced view from both partners.
I know that the statistics, at least in the United States, says that there's really only 10% of couples that say we enjoy our relationship and we have a great relationship. We know like 50% of the marriages are ending up in divorce. So if 50% are ending up in divorce, 10% are the only one who say we really, really love this relationship. Assumably, there's 40% that are hanging in there, they're working on their relationship, but they're not necessarily also satisfied. Now, in your experience, working with so many couples and in two different countries, Canada and US, what is the difference between all the couples and the 10% that really say we've worked together and it's a joy and we're blessed to have each other, and how does that relationship work versus the other part of the 90%? And I'll make it into three categories. Make it hard for you. 10%, how does that differ with the 40%? And we're all being assumptive about all of these, by the way. 40% who are hanging in there, working it through, and the group that just says, that's it, I'm giving up, this isn't working.
Okay, three-part answer.
Three-part
answer.
The
10% are following what I call in Kaizen for couples the relational gifts. That means you're sharing honesty, safety, trust, respect, and reliability.
Hang in there. Honesty.
Yes.
Say a bit about it.
Why they're called the relational gifts is because you have to have them within you before you can give them to anybody else. What happens in a relationship is I want from you a whole lot of things, but I may not have them within myself yet. So honesty, if I'm not honest with myself about who I am and how I'm being, and maybe that I'm a little entitled or I am a little demanding or whatever, I'm not honest and can face that, then I am not going to be able to be in an honest relationship with my partner.
Yes.
So honesty is the first one. Safety is a big one. You
Yes,
have to be
absolutely.
safe with yourself, safe with your partner, not just physically but emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
No demeaning, no putting down, no one-upmanship, no superior, inferior feelings emotionally.
That also takes somebody who is, as you said, kind of clean with themselves, because if I'm going to be demeaning in my own head with myself and constantly putting myself down, it is so easy then to also transfer that to someone else. And I don't feel safe and trusting toward myself. How can I do it to others? So working on yourself, it just means it takes a lot for you to work on yourself to be honest and safe within yourself before giving it to others.
That's right, because you can't give a gift you don't have.
Absolutely.
And if you try to do that, what you end up is doing projecting what you're afraid you don't have and making it on your partner's situation.
Yes.
Right? So you just get into a strange projection situation. And so honesty and safety, trust.
Mm-hmm.
Trust is a gift you give to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Trust is not this big earned thing that we like to talk about all the time. You give that gift to someone, I'm going to trust you.
It's the willingness to trust.
It's a willingness
Mm-hmm.
to trust. Honesty, safety, trust, and respect. Demonstrated respect for yourself first, so that you can demonstrate that respect to somebody else. And then the last is reliability, which is you'll do what you say you will do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many of us on a personal level make promises to ourselves we don't keep?
Absolutely. Yes.
So if I don't keep my promises to myself, then I don't feel trustworthy at a basic level, and therefore how will I trust my partner, and how can I give my partner reliability? I can't,
Mm-hmm.
right, because I'm not reliable to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So honesty, safety, trust, respect, and reliability are the basis for the 10%. And they
Got it.
have great skills, and they actually look beyond their own needs to the needs of the relationship. Okay, then we get the 40%, the hang in there group. The Gottman Institute did some interesting research, and they showed that people have a problem, an actual recognizable problem, for 6 years before they get help.
Hmm.
So we've got a lot of people in there in the hang-in
6
group.
years.
They're in their 6-year
So that's the whole
period.
point with the 7-year itch. There was conversation that,
That's
people
right.
having a 7-year itch because there was a lot of people getting divorced or separated right at the 7th year. So that's, it goes with Dr. Gottman's research. About 6 years they go through this ups and downs before it shows itself.
Or even one terrible problem that they really dislike a lot, but they'll suffer through it for 6 years before they get help or they separate. There's another piece for that 40%, and that's the duty and obligation.
Yes.
Right? Like my mother used to say to me, you made your bed, you lie in it, right? So, okay, this is it. And that may be for cultural reasons, it may be for religious reasons, it may be for just the fact that I don't want to go and date again, so I might as well stick with this one.
Yes, but it's interesting that what I'm also finding a lot with this group of the 40% or the other part, which is they remove themselves emotionally and responsibly from the relationship, but their duty and obligation keeps them in a physical state of the relationship.
Right.
And funny enough is that the person will say, no, I'm no longer in this relationship emotionally. I'm no longer willing to do anything about it. And I'm even starting to look outside for flirting or getting that needs met.
Or
And
being
I'm not-
on Facebook.
being on Facebook. And, maybe it is an affair, maybe it isn't, maybe it never turned into that, maybe it was just, getting the attention and not necessarily doing, but definitely taking the responsibility and acknowledgement that I'm no longer holding that space in the relationship, but because of the duty, how can I leave? And these are not just the people who are having children, because sometimes it's like, okay, I have a responsibility to my child, and I have to be there. But even people who don't have children hold that the structure. They have a duty, interestingly enough, to the structure of the marriage, but not necessarily to the emotional aspect
Right.
of the marriage.
So there's all style and no substance.
Yes.
And what I call those people, Foojan, is those people are the people who live on the railroad track and honestly believe that it meets at the horizon.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. So let's wake up around that and get help. Because if you're still together and you want to stay together, there are so many things that you can do. So many ways that we can help. But if you don't get that help, you'll end up in the 50%.
Yes.
And actually, the good news is that the number of divorces is going down. We're now at 45%, and hopefully we'll descend. But we have to know that number's skewed, too, because a lot of people aren't getting married. They're living together.
Right.
So that's what that's about. But we have those three groups, just as you said, and I think that's why they're in those groups. We can't know how to have a relationship with a new person. We have to learn it, and whether we have the openness and willingness to learn it without help, and we're really intrigued with each other. But usually what's happened is there's a polarization. I'm not listening to my partner with an ear to learn about my partner. Often I'm listening to my partner with an ear to defend myself.
Yes.
And when you're in that place, it's a stalemate. You're not going to go anywhere. You're going to be in that 40% forever. Because you have to be vitally interested in your partner and who they are, curious, and allow them to change and allow them to grow. Expect them to grow and be listening for the green and growing edges and appreciating when they have grown and having a listening ear for them to talk about their development. And do that for each other, and then you'll get into the 10%. But if you don't do that, you'll be stuck on the railroad tracks. And eventually you get bored, because as you were saying, there isn't engagement. And you get bored, and then you fall into the 45 or 50% over here.
So knowing what the ingredients are to move to that 10%, wherever you are in your relationship, to move it to that 10% of high satisfaction and love and joy in your relationship, and even if you are to keep keeping it, let's talk a little bit more about the components of it, okay? And how does one bring it upon themselves, get to know those components, and start practicing them so that they get good with it, and then they can also bring it into their relationship. So, for example, when we're talking about honesty, honesty is a loaded conversation. We can, but what if this? But what if that? What if I say this and it hurts them? But so, with all best intention, people are not necessarily transparent, authentic, or honest. So when we're talking about honesty being an amazing component to this part, honesty with self and our partner, how could someone create that honesty for themselves? Like identify the areas that they're not honest with themselves, they're not, fully expressed, fully authentic, and how to be able to pass through those obstacles.
Well, what's really important about being honest with yourself is that you actually are self-reflective. You're not just looking for the world to give you information. You actually want to know something about how to do life better. So first of all, spend some time with yourself.
That'd be nice.
Because many people are buying into what the culture says is do more, be more, have more, do more, be more, have more, repeat, right? And so we don't sit, we're not quiet, we're not introspective, we're not self-reflective. So you can ask yourself, how am I, stop. Here's one thing from the book. Stop and take 4 or 3 of the deep breaths that I talk about in there, how to do it, what's called 4-7-8 breathing. It allows you to reoxygenate yourself, get rid of the carbon dioxide load, and then ask yourself, right in this minute, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I needing? What am I wanting? Now, it doesn't have to be deep and earth-shattering. You may just learn that you're still a little bit anxious from the traffic this morning. Or you may find that you're not looking forward to going home because of the fight you had when you left. But you will start to be in touch with yourself. And what I have my clients do, Foojan, is I have them set their cell phones to go off 6 times a day and take this 2 minutes to take the 3 deep breaths and to ask themselves, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I needing? What am I wanting? So just start to get in touch with yourself. And then when you've got that down a little bit, then have a time with your partner to say, I want to share with you what I learned during my times. And then you start to communicate in a safe way because you're only talking about yourself.
Yes.
You're not saying anything about the relationship. You're saying, here's what I'm learning about myself. And that allows there to be some safe vulnerability. Hopefully it's safe. And then definitely get better communication skills. Learn how to communicate. I've been in this work for a long time, as you have, and there used to be something which I would like to put a big red circle with a line through it to never do, and that's to use an iMessage. If you have been to a communication course and someone has said, use an iMessage, no, finish with that, because that always puts blame on the other person in some way or another. And I know it wasn't meant to, it wasn't developed to do that, but it does it. So when you use what I call the personal weather report, and there's 2 chapters on it in Kaizen for couples, learn how to do it skillfully with your partner so that you can actually say what's going on for you and with you and within you. And that the other person could just hear that. They don't have to do anything about it but hear it and ask questions about how long has that been true for you? Do you know when that first started? Do you know what kicked it off? Do you know what the trigger for it is now? And they're drawing things from you so that you learn more about yourself. But in the process, they're learning a great deal more about you.
As you're saying this, what comes up for me is that it's important for the couples to set it up right and create it so that after a while it becomes a ritual and a culture of that, the unit, the relationship unit. Because many times when people are saying, do you have a moment, I want to tell you a little bit about myself, the other one is like, oh my God, what's going to come is you're going to complain about me. And it might be a lot of defensiveness at the beginning. So what you're saying is setting it up in a way that creates safety for both of us, so that my partner knows that when I'm reflecting on myself, that as it comes up and I'm sharing it with you, it's not going to be a negative thing about you. That even if I'm going through my own conversation, and even if it's negative, it's still about me. I think that's what was intended about the iMessage, but however, I think we don't use it many times. What I've heard a lot from clients is what they do is they put the blame, they just put an I in the front of it. And that's what I'm hearing you say. It's like, well, just working on the semantics of it doesn't work. Ultimately, if I'm blaming someone, the blame is going to come through. I don't care how much you put a red ribbon in it. But the other part is to create that safety with my partner where I can feel safe, where I've looked at who I am, and now I'm giving you a gift of myself and what I've noticed, what I've been curious about me. I've noticed this, and I just want to share this gift with you. And for the other person to get involved in this curiosity of, oh, let's look for the fortune at the end of this together. That's what I was hearing.
And you're right. You got it. But the thing is that you're bringing out that's so important is this is an agreement that you make to do things like this with your partner, and because you both want the relationship to be the best it can. I have this concept that I'm going to write about in the book after the one that comes
17th.
out. And the concept is the concept of a sacred relationship, a sanctuary relationship, where you go to be restored, where you go to be safe, where you know someone has your back and is vitally interested in who you are and how you are. And that's what we're talking about, the 10%. Maybe I'll even call it Sanctuary Relationships, How to Be in the 10%.
There you go. We got even the title of the 17th
there you
book.
go. See how creative we are. But the thing is, if you're not just doing a pro forma way to do relationship. Okay, we're together, we pay the bills, we go out together, we squabble, we kind of like each other, we occasionally have sex, and it's okay. It's like everybody else's, right? If that's okay with you, fine.
The latest article came out that happiness, if you want to be happy in couples, only one time a week sex is enough to make you happy.
Well, there you go.
There you
So
go.
take note, everybody. Once a week is enough. But the thing is that if you are just doing it to jump through the hoops and be like everybody else, and that satisfies you, great. But I want to invite people to say there is so much more, and it is so much more primary. You know, the master metaphor from my work is inclusive compassion. Mm-hmm. And what inclusive compassion is the conscious choice to give what you're willing to receive.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Say it again. Conscious choice.
The conscious choice to give what you're willing to receive.
Say it another way also. I just want you guys to get it.
It's so important to know that anything you're about to do or say,
yes.
the tone of voice you may use, the expectations you may have, are ones that you would be willing to have other people have of you, and then you give it to them. But if you're not willing to hear it or have it done to you or said to you, then don't let it come from you.
Yes.
Right?
If you don't want to be treated in that way, stop treating others in that way, and treat others the way that you want to be treated.
Well said. And there's a caveat. The reason it's called inclusive compassion is it includes you. Mm-hmm. Treat yourself the way you want to be treated. You're allowed to do that. Give yourself permission to take great care of yourself.
Second one, safety. How do we create safety for ourselves and our relationship?
Boundaries.
Say more.
We're not really trained to have good boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
We're very, we're very open. We allow people to disrespect us in ways because we're trying to please them, or we want to be nice, or we don't want to make waves, or whatever we have in our language for that. And so we're not assertive. And I want everyone to become assertive. Not aggressive, but assertive. And what assertive is, mimicking what I said before, is that we know what we think, what we feel, what we need, what we want, and we know that we deserve to take up space and draw breath. And therefore, as long as I'm saying it, this is about me, it has nothing to do with you, mm-hmm. I can be assertive. I can say, I wouldn't like to go to that party. I don't have to give you a reason. I am assertive. I don't care to go. Mm-hmm. Right? That's all right. Mm-hmm. So one of the ways we keep ourselves safe is to know our boundaries, know where our edges are. This is okay with me. This is not okay with me. That's the boundary. And that I can tell someone, that's my boundary. And if you cross my boundary, this is what will happen. You know?
Now, to open this up, there's two things that came up for me. One is that I know that many times in marriages, when one is putting up a boundary, the other one many times gets angry at the boundary that is being set. It's almost like playmates that are just like playing together and assuming that if I like something and I played, and because at the beginning of the relationship we all played the same and we all liked the same thing, so every play that I want to do, well, it's obvious that you're going to play with me. So at the minute that the other person says, nope, I don't want to play this one, we get offended, and it's like it's going to hold me back, and then I get resentful that, oh, if you don't want to do it, then we're not going to be a team, or I have to stop my game, and why should I give, and we go into our own resentment for you setting up a boundary for me where I cannot move forward with you or without you because you just put a boundary for me. That's one thing that came up for me when you said the boundary. The other side was, I get it that when I set a boundary, and I am entitled to know my boundaries and set it, but wouldn't that be the beginning of a negotiation then versus the end of it? Like, this is my boundary. If you cross it, this is your consequence, so it's just going to be my way or highway, or this is my boundary because I know it, I realize it, this is what it is, and yes, these are the benefits and the consequences, and yet knowing that within myself that is just the beginning of the negotiation.
The beginning of the conversation.
Yes. Exactly.
In the book I have something called the Converse Cycle. It's 4 steps to take every small thing that you want to talk about. And when you use those 4 steps, you're learning about each other as you go. So I might say, you know, here's my boundary. I'm feeling really bothered when it goes beyond this, or this isn't all right with me. I feel myself withdrawing, or I feel resentment, as you said. And I just want to put that out there, and let's talk about that. And so then we enter into doing life together, as opposed to, this is my boundary and you go stay on that side and I'll be on this side. But because then the other person perhaps then learns more assertiveness too. They can say, well, I feel like that sometimes. And we get into a great learning conversation with each other. But if we're afraid to put up a boundary, we're afraid to have that conversation, what if they don't like it? Well, they're not going to like everything about you, so know that and learn to converse about the difficult things that you don't like.
Right. And it's okay that they don't like something about you, because overall, if they're with you, they probably like a lot more about you that they don't like, but it's okay for them not to also not to like.
Yeah.
The third one.
Trust.
How can we create trust for ourselves and our partner?
Well, we certainly have to be able to trust ourselves. You know, so
how?
First of all, you have to look to say, do I play on my own team? You know, am I taking care of myself? Can I trust myself to take care of myself? Will I take myself out of toxic situations?
Yes.
And then when we know how to trust ourselves, then we can provide trust for our partner.
Yes. One of the things that I really see with couples, and we talk about it, is that when they go into a mistrusting place with their partner, it's really an insult, not only to their partner, but to themselves. Many times I ask, why would you want to be with this person who you've created this monster in your own head about? And what does that say about you, that you would continue moving along with this conversation, with the action of being in a relationship and acting this way, and then yet in your mind you're brewing these types of stories about your partner, and you're demonizing your partner in your own head, but then you're showing something else. And then how could you trust yourself then if your own behavior and the version you have in your head are so different? So the willingness to trust and respect myself, in that I chose this partner, I assessed, these are where my assessment come back and reality check on some aspects, helps me to create trust for myself and my partner.
Sure, and that's predicated on the fact that you're communicating with each other freely, right? There's a little phrase that I love that I put into inclusive compassion, and that phrase is, what you see, you energize. So if you're looking at your partner with kind eyes, you're looking at the things that you like about your partner, you're commenting on those things, you give energy to that and you get more of that. If you're in a relationship where you're always finding fault, where you're always looking for the negative and the downside, you'll get more of that. So as a sort of meta model of what's possible, always remember that what you decide to see is what you give energy to. So if someone is doing something, for instance, in that 10%, that 10% trusts themselves and they trust their partner. So if their partner were an hour late for something, they wouldn't be saying, how could you? Isn't that awful? I trust that there was a reason, right? That's such a simple thing, but how many people do that, right? The 40% not doing it so well, and the rest of them gave up doing it. So that's where the trust comes in, to come to the place where you believe in each other, that you know that their intentions are good, right?
Fourth one?
Respect. Yeah. We respect ourselves by taking care of ourselves again, by not placing ourselves in places where we're unsafe, to relate to the safety issue. When we treat ourselves as though we have a right to our opinion and our thought and our feeling, and that therefore we offer that to our partner. They have that right.
Dr. Shaler, this is also comes up for me that when you're not honest with yourself and your partner, when you don't trust yourself and your partner, and when you don't create the concept of even safety with yourself and your partner, with all of those three, you're also disrespecting and respecting.
Exactly. I mean, they're permeable. You
Yes.
can flow among the five of them because they're
Right.
so related. But we must have that respect. And you know, there's so much in conversation about self-respect.
Yes.
But if we don't sit with ourselves and find out what we need, and what parts of us we respect, and what parts of us we like, and what work we'd like to do to improve and be the person we most like to be, then we're not going to have self-respect. And then we're going to go around demanding other people respect us.
Absolutely.
Because we don't have that gift to give, so we want them to give it to us.
The fifth one?
Reliability.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
so
simple
important
one.
because that also creates trust, and that also creates safety
Yes.
and respect. So it's interesting how they all kind of like a link. They hook to each other to create that beautiful relationship.
Sure, and it's related to honesty.
Yes.
Because reliability basically means that if I say I value something, I behave I value something. If I say I'm going to do something, then I do that something. So it's that follow through and that alignment. And what I ask my couples when I'm working with them to do is to look at four things. What are your values? They look at them personally, and then they look at them in a shared format. What are your values? What's your vision for your life? What are your beliefs about everything, how the world works, how money works, your spiritual beliefs, all of that. And then what's your purpose right now? What are your purposes in life right now? And be able to articulate that for yourself very clearly, and then have those wonderful conversations where you share those things in Kaizen steps, small, positive, incremental ways. Not, well, here I am.
Right.
How do you like me so far? But in that long conversation where we are actually listening.
So this is where you're going to be able to get a lot more information from Dr. Shaler with this book, Kaizen for Couples, Smart Steps to Save, Sustain, and Strengthen Your Relationship. And you can obtain that book from Amazon.com, Barnes & Nobles, and more than for relationshiphealth.com. That is on the screen that you see. And you can contact Dr. Shaler also through the website. Thank you so much for coming such a long way from San Diego County to LA County, and hopefully we'll see you back here when your new book is out in a couple of months, actually, right?
Yeah, it was great to have this conversation. We have so much more to talk about.
Absolutely. Thank you for being
Thank
with
you.
me. Thank you so much for all of you to being with us, and until next week, create a wonderful life for yourself. Bye-bye.